We got it! Run faster!
The girls didn't believe it when the elders warned that a deadly curse awaits anyone who takes what belongs to the river home. The river forgives, but it never forgets. That day started like any other dry season afternoon in Udele. Hot, dusty and noisy, with women quarreling over whose goat ate whose cassava. Blinky's mother had already gone to the market that morning. She sold vegetables, garden egg, pepper, bitter leaf, anything that grew fast enough to keep hunger away. Before leaving, she called out instructions from the doorway like she always did. Blinky, make sure you sweep the compound, wash the plates, fetch water, and pound the yam before I return. You hear? Yes, Mama, Blinky shouted back, pretending to listen. But the moment her mother disappeared around the corner, her real day began. She dashed inside, changed into her favorite wrapper, the one with orange flowers, brushed her teeth quickly, and ran straight to Vero's house. That was typical Blinky. If laziness were a race, she would have come first and still asked for a prize. Vero was under the mango tree when she arrived, grinning like she had just escaped prison. Vero, your house smells like peace. Let me stay here small before my mother shouting follows me from the market. Vero laughed. Did you finish what she asked you to do? Blinky waved a hand. Vero, life is too short to waste on chores. That's how their days usually went. Blinky talking more than she worked, and Vero doing her best not to join her in trouble. Both of them were daughters of single mothers. Blinky's father had died when she was barely 10. They said fever took him in his sleep. Vero's father had drowned trying to cross the flooded bridge one rainy season when she was 8. Since then, their mothers carried life like a heavy basin on their heads, working hard, scolding hard, and loving harder than they should. Maybe that's why Blinky and Vero became inseparable. They understood each other's kind of pain. And when they were together, they laughed enough to forget it. That afternoon, instead of doing her chores, Blinky joined Vero in frying gari. The sun was harsh, but they didn't mind. They joked, teased the boys who passed by, and told stories about girls in the city who use mirrors more than brooms. Vero, Blinky said, stirring the hot gari with a wooden spoon, when I finally leave this village, I'll never touch firewood again. I'll buy food already cooked, maybe even hire someone to blow my hot tea for me. Vero almost dropped her spoon laughing. You, the same Blinky that can't even sweep a room without complaining? Blinky flipped Gary at Vero playfully. Mock me now, you will see. By the time they finished frying and packed everything, the sun had begun to drop behind the tall palm trees. That was when Blinky's eyes suddenly widened. Vero, she gasped. There is no single drop of water at home. Vero stared at her. You didn't fetch water since morning. Blinky shook her head. I forgot. When your mother returns and finds out, even the spirits of the market will hear her shouting. Blinky knelt beside her, clasping her hands dramatically. Please, Vero, lend me 2 gallons of water. I've been helping you fry gari all day. I promise I'll fetch it back tomorrow before sunrise. Vero folded her arms, pretending to think, should I save you or let your mother peel your skin this night? Save me now, my friend, Blinky begged. Vero sighed. Fine, but remember, if you forget tomorrow, I'll tell her myself. Blinky hugged her so tight she could barely breathe. You are my lifesaver. When I make money one day, I'll build you a well. They laughed until tears came out of their eyes. And that was how Blinky escaped her mother's punishment that evening. If only Vero knew that saving her that day was the first step towards the disaster that would change their lives. Because by the next evening, Blinky would come to her house again, not laughing this time, but shaking, and drag her towards the forbidden stream where their lives would never be the same again. The next morning came quietly. In Udele, no one fetched water on Sundays. It was the village's forbidden day, the day the elders said the stream rested. Anyone who dared to disturb it would bring a curse upon themselves and their household. But Blinky didn't care about all that. She woke up, stretched, and instantly remembered there was no single drop of water in the house. The previous evening's escape had only bought her time. Her mother would return from church dusty and tired, expecting to bathe and cook. Panic shot through her like fire. She grabbed her clay pot and ran straight to Vero's house. The sound of her bare feet on the red earth broke the stillness of the morning. When she reached Vero's compound, she didn't even bother to knock. She shouted from the gate, "Vero! Vero, please come out!" Vero appeared, yawning, her hair wrapped messily in a scarf. "What's wrong with you this early?" Blinky was already panting. "Please, Vero, follow me to the stream. I need to fetch just 2 pots of water. Just 2." Vero's eyes widened. "What? Blinky, are you mad? Today is Sunday. You want to go to the stream on the goddess's day? Do you want to bring a curse upon both of us?" Blinky dropped her pot and held her chest like she was in pain. "Please, Vero, I swear, I have no water at home. My mother will kill me if she finds out. She's already angry because the last year my pounded was full of lumps. Please, let's just go quietly. Nobody would know." "You think nobody would know? The water knows, Blinky. Even if humans don't see you, the stream will see. You want to anger the goddess?" Blinky moved closer, her voice dropping into a pleading whisper. "Please, Vero, you are my only friend. I can't go alone. I just need little water to fill 1 pot, I swear. The goddess will understand. It's not like we're going to bathe or play, just to fetch." Vero rubbed her forehead. The elder's warnings echoed in her mind, how the goddess of the stream slept on Sundays, how her spirit punished anyone who disturbed her rest. But then she looked at Blinky, her friend's desperate face, her cracked lips, her dusty feet, and sighed. "Blinky," she said slowly, "you'll be the death of me one day." Blinky clasped her hands together in gratitude. "Thank you. I promise it will be quick. We'll go, fetch, and run back before anybody sees us." Vero stared at her for a long moment, then finally picked up her own clay pot from beside the wall. "Let's go before I change my mind." Blinky squealed, hugging her. "I knew you wouldn't let me down." The 2 girls hurried down the narrow path that led to the stream. The village was unusually silent. Even the goats stayed in their pens, and not a single mortar pounded from any kitchen. Only the sound of their pots clinking and the dry leaves crunching beneath their feet followed them. Halfway down the path, Vero stopped suddenly. "Do you feel that?" Blinky turned and frowned. "Feel what?" "The wind," Vero said quietly. "It's blowing from the wrong direction." Blinky waved it off. "It's just morning breeze. Don't start acting like one of those old women now." Vero sighed. "You always joke until things turn serious." They continued walking, and soon the sound of the stream began to reach their ears. Soft at first, then clearer, like a song carried by the wind. But something about the sound was strange. The water didn't gurgle or flow as usual. Blinky gasped. "Vero, have you ever seen it like this before?" Vero shook her head slowly. "No, never." They stood in silence, and that was when they saw it. A fish, large, silver blue, glowing as if it had swallowed the moon. It lay on the wet sand, its gills opening and closing weakly, like it was gasping for air. Vero took a cautious step back. "Blinky, let's go home now." But Blinky's eyes were wide, her fear already mixing with greed. "No, Vero, look at it. That's not an ordinary fish. Do you know how much this fish could fetch in the market?" "Leave it," Vero said quickly. "It's still alive. We should help it back into the water." "Or we could take it home and cook it," Blinky said with a smirk. The fish lifted its head, and before either of them could move, it spoke. "Do not take me," the fish said. Its voice was soft but echoed, like it was coming from inside the water and inside their head at the same time. "Put me back, and I will repay your kindness." Blinky's eyes were wide. Did she say repay? Like with what? The fish blinked its glowing eyes. "Whatever your heart's desire, every 7 days, if you spare me." "Every 7 days? That means every week." Blinky looked at Vero. "Vero, you can go home if you are scared, but I'm not leaving a talking fish with promises of gold just swimming away." Blinky bent down. "If you're not lying, fish," she said, "give me gold jewelry, enough to fill my mother's old box." The fish's eyes glowed brighter. Then suddenly, right there beside the stream, gold bangles appeared. Dozens of them, gleaming, real, solid. Blinky screamed, "It's true! It's real!" Vero's mouth dropped open. My turn! I want money! Real money! Bundles of it!" And just like that, it happened again. Stacks of cash, clean and new, appeared in front of her. They both laughed and danced. "Blinky, we are rich!" Vero cried. "Do you still think we should be scared?" "You have taken your wish. Now, let me return." the fish said weakly. They rolled the fish back into the water. Blinky fell to her knees, scooping the jewelries into her wrapper. Vero held the money tight against her chest, eyes shining with disbelief. Every 7th day, the words echoed through the trees, soft as a sigh, cold as a warning. But neither of them looked back. If they had, maybe they would have seen the water ripple in the shape of 2 faces, one smiling, one watching. Maybe they would have known that no gift from the river ever comes free. Blinky and Vero hid the jewelries deep inside the clay pots behind Vero's mother's hut. The next morning, they carried the gold secretly to a neighboring village where nobody knew them. They sold it, and the money they got was more than either of them had ever seen in their lives. For 2 girls who once shared a single bar or so between them, it felt like a dream. When their mothers noticed they had started spending money, buying meat pie in the market, paying for things without hesitation, they asked questions. "Where did you get money from?" Vero's mother demanded one evening. Vero smiled innocently. Mama, you won't believe it. We helped a foreigner who lost his way near the road to the big tree. He said he reminded us of his daughters and gave us money to thank us." Blinky's mother asked the same question another day, and Blinky gave the same story, word for word. The mothers looked at each other later and nodded. It must be true. Good deeds always come back with blessings. The girls laughed secretly that night. For months, they continued going to the stream every Sunday. It became their ritual, their secret worship. They would arrive early, barefoot, carrying nothing but their clay pots and their greedy hearts. Whenever they got there, they would sing softly into the water. "We helped you. Now it's your turn to fulfill your promise." And like clockwork, the water would shimmer, the fish would rise, its scales glimmering faintly, and its voice, still gentle, still patient, would echo, "What do you desire this time?" At first, their wishes were small: money, food. Then their desires grew bolder. Blinky wanted her crush, Kene, the handsome boy who always fetched firewood near the hill, to fall in love with her. The next day, Kene came to her mother's store and bought vegetables he didn't even need, smiling like a man under his spell. Vero wanted to pass her exams without studying. When the results came, her name sat at the top of the list, her teachers clapping in disbelief. The fish never refused them. After that, they began asking for ridiculous things. "Make all our chores be done every morning after their mothers have gone to the market," Blinky would say. "Make our mothers think we are hardworking," Vero would add. And every morning, once their mothers have left for the market, the girls would wake to find the compound already swept, the plates washed, the firewood stacked neatly beside the kitchen. They never lifted a finger. Their lives changed completely. Every afternoon, the 2 girls would sit under the mango tree gisting and laughing while other girls struggled with chores. When hunger came, they didn't bother cooking. They simply walked to the market, buy roasted yam, akara or suya, and ate to their fill. Sometimes, they would sneak to town, enter fancy restaurants and order food they even couldn't pronounce. They never took photos, never bragged too loud. They knew better than to draw attention. But the glow on their faces and the carelessness in their laughter told a story no one else understood. They couldn't buy new clothes, new hair or new shoes, at least not openly. Their mothers would notice. So they bought those too secretly, hid them inside calabashes, wearing them only when they left the village. One afternoon, they bought a new phone from the city. They hid it under Vero's bed and used it only when their mothers were gone. They would take turns pressing it, laughing at videos, recording their voices, and taking pictures they never planned to show anyone. For an entire year, this was their life. Quiet luxury, hidden from the world, powered by magic they didn't understand. Until one fateful Sunday morning, Blinky woke up with a new idea burning in her mind. She ran to Vero's house, excitement written all over her face. "Vero," she whispered, "what if we stop going to the river altogether?" Vero frowned. "Stop going? But that's where the fish lives." Blinky grinned. "Exactly. That's the problem. Every Sunday we sneak out, risk being caught, risk someone following us. Why don't we just bring her home?" Vero blinked. "Bring the fish home?" "Yes. If we keep her here, we'd have full control. We won't have to wait for Sundays anymore. We can ask her for anything, anytime we want.
Think about it, 100% ownership. Vero hesitated, chewing her lip. Deep down, she knew it sounded wrong, but the thought of having all that power, all that magic just a few steps away was too sweet to resist. Do you think it will work? She asked quietly. Blinky smiled. Of course it will. The fish owes us. We saved our life, remember? That afternoon, they crept back to the stream. When they reached the water, they sang softly, as they always did. We helped you. Now, it's your turn to fulfill your promise. The river shimmered. The fish rose. Before the fish could speak, Blinky moved fast. She grabbed the woven bag from under her wrapper and with one swift motion, scooped the glowing creature from the water. Blinky! Vero hissed, panicking. Be careful!
Shh! Blinky whispered harshly. Hurry! Together, they tied the bag tightly, hiding the struggling fish inside. Then, with racing hearts, they ran through the forest, the bag shaking against Blinky's side. By the time they reached home, the sun had begun to set. They went behind Blinky's house where the grass grew tall and wild. There, they found an old clay pot, large and cracked, but deep enough to hold water. They filled it halfway, then gently poured the fish inside. The water glowed faintly for a moment, then dimmed. There, Blinky said proudly. Now she's ours. Vero nodded, trying to ignore the unease curling in her stomach. No one must find out, she whispered. Of course not, Blinky replied. This is our secret. They hid the pot behind a stack of firewood, covered it with leaves, and sneaked back inside like nothing had happened. That night, for the first time, they didn't need to walk to the river. They simply tiptoed to the backyard, whispered their usual chant, and the fish's weak glow flickered through the pots. They kept the fish for months, hidden away in that old clay pot behind Blinky's house. At first, it still answered when they called it, its glow faint but alive. But as the days turned to weeks and the weeks to months, its light began to fade. The fish was dying, slowly, silently, because it was no longer in its home. And the day its glow finally went out, the river went still. The wind stopped blowing through Udele, and a shadow fell over the girls' lives. That was the moment Blinky and Vero unknowingly awakened the curse they had been warned about, the deadly curse that awaits those who take what belongs to the river home. On a Monday morning, Blinky and Vero woke up screaming in pain, each in their own homes. Their mothers came running, terrified, as both girls clutched their stomachs, twisting and crying on the floor. Blinky, Vero, what is it? What did you eat? Their mothers shouted. The two girls could barely speak. They only groaned and wept, swearing they had eaten nothing unusual. The pain was unbearable, deep, burning, spreading through their bellies like fire. The whole village gathered outside, whispering. No one had ever seen two people fall ill at the same time in such a strange way. Their mothers tried everything. They gave them herbs, rubbed their bellies with palm oil, and also gave them palm oil to drink, and prayed through the night. But nothing worked. By the next morning, it got worse. Whenever they tried to bathe, their skin broke out in terrible rashes. Whenever they drank water, their stomachs clenched in agony. They couldn't eat anything cooked with water, couldn't drink, their lips cracked from thirst. Their bodies burned with fever. They screamed and begged for mercy, but even they didn't understand what was happening to them. The mothers called herbalists. The herbalists brought roots, leaves, and strange powders. Nothing worked. They called pastors. Prayers filled the house day and night, but the pain didn't stop. Finally, they took them to the town's hospital. The doctors ran every test they knew, but when the result came, the doctor shook his head in confusion. He said, "There's nothing wrong with them, at least not anything science can explain." By then, the mothers had sold their jewelry, their goats, their clothes, everything they owned just to save their daughters. And still, the sickness grew worse. One evening, when all hope seemed lost, a neighbor whispered, "Go to the native doctor in Ogbono forest. He sees what others cannot see." Desperate, the two mothers wrapped their heads with white cloth and went to the shrine. The moment they stepped inside, the old native doctor, his eyes cloudy but sharp with wisdom, screamed before they even spoke a word. "Abomination!" he shouted, striking his staff on the ground. "Your daughters have brought a great abomination to this land." The women froze, tears already welling in their eyes. "What have they done?" they cried. "What happened to our daughters?" The native doctor said with trembling fingers, "Your daughters have angered the river goddess. They took what belongs to her. They held her captive." The woman gasped. "Held her captive? But what are you saying?" "The fish," the old man said slowly. "The fish, the guardian of the river. Your daughters captured her and trapped her in a pot. They have brought a deadly curse upon themselves, one that no medicine can cure." The mothers fell to the ground weeping. "What must we do? Please save our children." The native doctor closed his eyes, his voice deep and heavy. "On the 7th day," he said, "they must confess publicly before the villagers. Then a cleansing ritual must be done by the river. Only then will the goddess decide whether to forgive them or take their lives." The mothers ran home heartbroken and trembling. They spent the night preparing everything the native doctor had asked for: white cloth, palm oil, kola nuts, alligator pepper, and fresh water from the stream. They sat beside their daughters, weeping softly, praying to the gods for mercy. When the 7th day came, the entire village gathered at the riverbank. Blinky and Vero were carried on mats, too weak to walk. Their eyes were dull, their skin pale, their breaths shallow. The native doctor stood tall before the crowd, his staff in one hand, his cowrie beads in the other. He began to chant, calling upon the goddess of the river, pleading for forgiveness on behalf of the girls. As he spoke, the mothers knelt beside their daughters, crying. The native doctor raised his hand. "Bring the pot!" The old cracked pot, the one that once held the fish, was brought forward. He poured fresh stream water into it and whispered incantations only the spirits could understand. Then he commanded, "Take her back!" The mothers lifted the pot together and gently poured its contents into the river. The moment the water touched the stream, a blinding glow rose from beneath the surface. The fish emerged, whole again, shimmering with light. The crowd gasped. As the fish flicked her tail, Blinky and Vero suddenly coughed, their eyes snapping open. Color returned to their faces. They sat up slowly, breathing in relief, weak but alive. Their mother screamed with joy, hugging them, crying uncontrollably. But before the joy could spread, the native doctor lifted his hand again, his face grave. "It is not over," he said. He turned to the girls, his voice heavy like thunder. "The goddess of the river has forgiven you, but her mark will remain. From this day forward, you must return here every 7 days to worship the river. And after you die, one child from each of your generations will take your place. That is the price for your greed." The girls' smiles faded. Their mothers froze in disbelief. The fish flicked her tail one last time and disappeared beneath the water, leaving behind ripples that shimmered under the afternoon sun. The wind blew gently through the trees, carrying the faintest whisper across the riverbank. The river forgives, but it never forgets. Since that day, the people of Udele say that on quiet Sunday mornings, if you listen closely by the river, you can still hear two voices, soft, young, and distant, singing a familiar tune beneath the water's surface. We helped you, now it's your turn.